I'm Jake Tapper. The White House today appearing to take punitive action against news organizations. Press Secretary Sean Spicer in the People's House just briefed reporters on the day's news. It was at the White House, of course. He did not allow news outlets, including CNN and the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times and Politico and others, to attend that off-camera briefing, which is known as a gaggle. This is a wild deviation from basic White House protocol, which normally allows any credentialed news organization to participate. For more, let's go right to CNN's Sarah Murray. She's live in the White House briefing room. And Sarah, I have to say, even the darkest days of the Obama White House's war against Fox News, the Obama White House never banned Fox from attending any sort of press gaggle or briefing. This is clearly President Trump punishing news organizations for providing basic accountability.
Well, Jake, it was a little perplexing to see how this played out today, because it's not unusual, for instance, for the White House to do something like that with a pool, which is, of course, a small group of reporters who represents the entire press corps, or even if they wanted to do a private meeting, for instance, with a group of columnists. But what is bizarre to see the White House hand-selecting a variety of different news outlets across the board and blocking others. So, for instance, they allowed every other major television network except for CNN into this briefing, which is outside the realm of what we normally see from the White House. It's very bizarre to allow newspapers into a briefing like this, but to exclude the New York Times. So they did seem to opt for some outlets they believe are more favorable toward the president, places like Breitbart, places like the Washington Times, and opted to exclude places like CNN, the New York Times, and Politico that the president has been directly critical of.
And Sarah, did the White House give any explanation as to why these news organizations, including CNN, were excluded?
I've asked a number of White House aides today in the communications shop specifically about why they hand-selected some reporters to be included and decided to exclude others. They have not answered that question. They have only said that it was originally going to be a pooled gaggle off camera. Then they decided to expand the pool. Sean Spicer said that that was his decision to expand the pool, but they have not said why they decided to sort of cherry-pick these outlets. And Jake, it's worth noting that in this gaggle that was off camera, that CNN was excluded from, the main focus was CNN's own excellent reporting today on contacts between the White House Chief of Staff and the FBI.
Sarah Murray, thank you so much. I don't want to spend too much time discussing this issue because we have a lot of news to cover today, but let's not make any mistake about what's happening here. A White House that has had some difficulty telling the truth and that has seemed to have trouble getting up to speed on the basic competent functioning of government, and a president who seems particularly averse to any criticism and has called the press the enemies of the American people. They are taking the next step in attempting to avoid checks and balances and accountability. It's not acceptable. In fact, it's petulant and indicative of a lack of basic understanding of how an adult White House functions. In fact, Sean Spicer in December seemed to completely understand this. He said the White House would not ban any media organization as the Trump campaign had. He said, quote, "We have a respect for the press when it comes to the government. That is something you can't ban an entity from, conservative, liberal, or otherwise." I think that's what makes a democracy versus a dictatorship. The Trump White House now, led by Sean Spicer's White House operation in the communication division, is now targeting multiple media organizations, and it seems to think it can punish reporters for sharing with you facts that they don't like. They offer rhetoric designed to mislead and confuse you about this issue, such as this from the president today.
We are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people. Because they have no sources, they just make them up when there are none.
It's just simply not true. So don't misunderstand what's going on with that rhetoric and with today's action banning various media outlets, including CNN and the New York Times. This White House does not seem to respect the idea of accountability. This White House does not seem to value an independent press. There is a word for that line of thinking. The word is un-American. Now, the Republican Party